Good morning, Rick. How you doing?
I'm great, Keith. How are you this morning?
Good, man. We were just, just kind of reconnecting just for a few minutes before we hit record. And I started to, share some feedback that I got from the folks at Mayo regarding what they see for me in terms of what's next. And you asked me, well, how do I think about that? And I just, started to thank you for helping me expand my approaches to what I do in trying to like live my purpose. And I talked about how I you helped me be more flexible. And then you started talking about rigidity. And well, you acknowledged me for not being rigid and letting that go, what doesn't serve me. So I thought we'd do today's podcast on rigidity can be a limitation. So please bless us, Rick.
Well, I guess what we were talking about was just about some of the things that each of us has learned over our lives, and what self-defeating behavior there is. You were mentioning that your mission, when I joined ToBeRe in '06, I guess, or '07, that your idea was to make sure that I met my goals. And so I wrote my goals down. And if there was something that I did that wasn't consistent with the goal, like showing up late or not doing 3 sets instead of, doing just two, or not wanting to do squats, or, those kinds of things in the physical realm, you felt that that was getting in the way of my goals. And by God, you weren't going to let that happen. And you were going to make me suffer until I got that I needed to stay on the path. Okay, well, the point of the point I was making about rigidity is that there is a need for discipline, no doubt, but there's also a sense of obstacle creation when we have the rigidity be something that's the focus of what the end result ought to be. It's not about being rigid; it's about securing the goal. And so if you keep your eye on the goal, sometimes the rigidity becomes an obstacle. And the way around that obstacle, I think, is to take a look at where you're at and see what kind of results you're getting. If people are pushing back, if you are pushing back about something that you've set, you might want to question whether that's something that you really need to do or something that's working. I'm a great believer in living life in a way that is satisfying, that brings you the most happiness. And that's not getting drunk every night. That's doing something that allows you to get lost in flow, where you feel like the world is, there's no time. You're just on a really great groove, like a long run skiing. If you can live your life like that, think of it. No obstacles, you're just gliding. You're just easy, easy, easy. I think that's when you know that you're on the right path. And I think rigidity sometimes is counterproductive and is a wake-up call. That's all.
No, that was so insightful for me. And you were the first one to really help me with that. As you mentioned, I was so achievement oriented, not just for myself, but for the people that, I had the pleasure and the privilege of partnering with to help them reach their goals. And I took things very seriously and personally if people, didn't do things that were in keeping with what they said they wanted for their goals. And you noticed this. You noticed it early when we had people that, chose to do things that were inconsistent with their goals. And I would, try to encourage them to get back on. And if they didn't, I felt a sense of loss. I felt diminished. And you just saw like, man, Keith, you're helping so many people that if you help one, that's fantastic. If none, reach a certain goal, that's cool too. That's their path. This is your path. And you'll be happier if you can, work on that. And so with your advice and your insights, I started to relax my grip on being rigid. And it's been a process. It's taken me some time. And what I found is that I can still be disciplined without having this internal rigidity. So, for example, I mean, the way that I eat. I'm very disciplined in what I eat. With that being said, there's no rigidity inside. So here's an example. If I go to a restaurant to where they don't serve foods that are plant-based, I'm not like upset about it. I can still be in that space, not judge what other people choose to eat, not demand that the restaurant have like, you know, vegetarian options on the menu. Like that's an example of it. Another example, what I'm finding is people not showing up on time. Like, you know, I may say something like, hey, listen, like, you know, for this task or for what your goal is, punctuality is really, really important. But internally, if they choose not to like show up on time, that's cool too. So I think that I'm very disciplined, but internally I'm not rigid anymore, become much more flexible with really allowing people to choose whatever action they want to take or their path, and also giving myself grace along the way too. I think that's been key. But I can see right now, Rick, how my rigidity has been a limitation. You know, I think about, you know, like if there's certain kind of tools that I need to do my craft, or I need to have this racket if I'm playing tennis, or this paddle if I'm playing another sport, or I got to have that squat rack, or whatever the case may be. It's got to be this car. I got to sleep on this side of the bed. Like all those things, man, it's a lot of work, man. And you find out you might just, you know, it might be better if you let that go. You know, I may find out like, you know what, Keith, if you gave it a chance, you actually get even better sleep on the other side of the bed. you know, you know,
Yeah.
yeah, you know, if you don't give people a hard time about their punctuality, maybe you'll find that you enjoy their company more, and they will certainly enjoy yours more. You know, just like what do you really want? I want a great night of sleep. So what does it matter what side of the bed you sleep on? You know, I want to really enjoy people all the time. Then don't make them being late a big deal unless it's mission critical. And then you can say something, but still be at peace with whatever they respond with, because they're still late. It didn't change that, you know. So you've really helped me in that area. And I just want to acknowledge you, Rick, for helping me um, expand how I see the world, how I interact with what is.
Oh, Keith, well, thank you. You're giving me way too much credit. I appreciate it, but keep in mind that, you know, your journey has been an amazing crack open. In other words, there were things in your life that weren't working, and you undertook the work yourself to see what those things were. And the thing that's interesting about self-examination is that there's nobody else involved. So you can look at your dirtiest self, and it's just you looking at the raw data, right? It's not like something you have to share with your mom or your psychologist unless you want to. You can work on it yourself. So my point is that when you saw that rigidity wasn't working, or it was getting in the way of relationships, or getting in the way of you helping people reach their goals, rather than being an aid, it was actually a harm. You took the bull by the horns and you looked at it and gave up what was coming between you and what you really wanted. The idea, you know, it just raises a whole issue of human behavior that I find fascinating, which is the concept of hot buttons. The more hot buttons we have, the harder it is to live your life. So if you've ever been with somebody who's literally offended by everything or most things, I mean, it is exhausting, and I can't wait to get the hell away from them. You know, people who, you know, they moan about everything. It's too cold. You know, my shoes don't work. I just got a call from my son who wants more money. Give me the list of every damn thing that you could possibly think of. And that's that's their lives, you know? I don't want any of that. I think
Yeah,
the fewer hot buttons, if you can get your hot buttons down to zero, that's the way to go. And that's part of the idea that we talk about in these podcasts of non-attachment. Non-attachment includes things like not being attached to rigidity in such a way that it gets in the way of your happiness. And like you
absolutely.
say, I mean, if the goal is to really enjoy people and to contribute to their lives and to feel contributed by them to your life, then having all of these complaints and judgments, it doesn't serve, right? It just doesn't serve. So get rid of it. It's easy to get rid of. You're mindful of it, and then you let it go. Anyway, it's my 2 cents before coffee this morning.
Greg, it's beautiful. And like I said, and acknowledge you for that, along with many other things that you've taught me, have really had a profound impact on my life in a positive way. So I just want to say thank you again.
No, thank you for being in my life, Keith. You're an amazing man, and I've learned so much. And you saved my life with ToBeRe. So it's totally mutual, this admiration society we've got going here.
Awesome, Rick. I love you.
I love you. Adios, man.
Thank you.